Assumptions in economics. Assumptions provides a way for economists to simplify economic processes and make them easier to study and understand. And assumptions basically allows an economist to break down a complex process in order to develop a theory and realm of understanding. Economics works with assumptions. Economists can't isolate individual variables in the real world, so they make assumptions to create a model that they control. Thus, assumptions in economics are simplifying or unrealistic conditions or beliefs that economists make while conducting any economic theory analysis. These assumptions are necessary to simplify complex real-world situations and make them more manageable for analysis. While assumptions can help in understanding economic phenomenon, it is important to recognize that they may not accurately reflect all aspects of reality. There are various economic assumptions which are done. In the coming chapters, you will see that each and every chapter has lot of assumptions that you are going to deal in details. There are various generalized assumptions as well, considering ceteris paribus, rationality, perfect competition, efficiency, fixed preferences, etc. All these things we are going to deal in details in the henceforth chapter. There are few examples of assumptions commonly made in economics analysis, and it's important to recognize that while assumptions helps in simplifying the complex economic phenomenon, they may not always accurately reflect the real world. Economists continuously refine and update their assumptions to improve the accuracy and relevance of economic model. There are three basic assumptions that we are going to discuss in this particular chapter. Though there are so many assumptions that we are going to see when we will go and discover about what is demand analysis, what is supply analysis, what is consumer demand analysis, etc. So in all the coming chapters, we are going to discuss lot of assumptions for each chapter and each unit. But right now we are just concerned with three basic assumptions that we are going to study. The first one would be consumer have rational preferences. The second one is existence of perfect competition. The third one is existence of equilibrium. Let's discuss one by one. Consumers have rational preferences. A rational consumer is an economic concept that presupposes that when making a choice, a consumer will always focus primarily on the maximization of their private benefits. His decision making, rational consumer selects the option that will bring the most type of utility or satisfaction to them. The word utility in this context means satisfaction, and this word has been dealt exclusively in chapter 4 when we are talking about utility in details. Hence, economist often assumes that individual and firms acts rationally, meaning they will make choices that maximizes their own self-interest given their preferences and with the given value or information what they have. This assumption simplifies decision-making process and thus it helps in predicting behavior. However, it does not account for behavioral biases, imperfect information and other psychological factors that may influence a decision making in reality. Suppose let's say I am one of the consumer and I want to buy certain books in a bookstore. So being a rational consumer, I'll check all the options which would be available to me, and on my technical choices or on my basis, which would be comprising of many decision factors, I would be making a right choice and a right decision which would suit me for my personal benefit. That means in this case, I'll choose the best book which I want with the best, most probably with the best possible prices as well, I can get it. So rational consumer basically are those which assumes that they are taking a rational decision which is best for their interest. When we are talking about the next assumption, it is about existence of perfect competition. Now this assumptions of perfect competitive model ensures that each buyer and seller is a price taker. The market, not individual consumer or firms, determines the price in the model of perfect competition. No individual have enough power in a perfectly competitive market to have an impact on that price. The next one is existence of equilibrium. The demand and supply both are functions of price, and so they must be equal in a positive way. It is very important to note when we are talking about equilibrium in a very simple way, when the demand and supply is equal, that is what an equilibrium is achieved at a given price. So let's say at price 3, the quantity demanded is 40 and the quantity supplied is 40. So in this particular case, that is a case of an equilibrium wherein demand is equal to supply. Let's see now what are the bifurcation of economics as a subject. In economics, it is bifurcated broadly into two categories. The first one is called as a microeconomics and the second one is called as a macroeconomics. Microeconomics, as the name suggests, micro, that means it is coming from a minute or a smaller instances. Hence, it is the study of decision which is made by people, business regarding allocation of resources and prices of goods and services. The government decides the regulation for taxes, etc. So microeconomics basically focuses on supply that determines the price level of an economy. This concept is also referred sometimes as bottom-up strategy to analyze the economy. Why do you think it is called as a bottom-up strategy? Because we are starting the study from the household, individual businesses, etc. So from the bottom line, we are moving towards in the upper line. So it is called as a bottom-up strategy because we are trying to study the decision made by an individual person, an individual organization regarding allocation of the resources, etc. In other words, microeconomics tries to understand human choices and allocation of resources. It does not decide what are the changes taking place in the market. Instead, it explains why there is change happening in the market. The key role of microeconomics is to examine how a company would maximize its production and capacity so that it could lower or reduce the prices of and compete it in the industry with other competitors who are prevailing in the market. The lot of microeconomics information can be obtained from the financial statements. The key factors of microeconomics are as follows, which includes demand, supply, equilibrium, etc. It also includes production theory, cost of production, and so on. Coming to the concept of macroeconomics. What do you think is a macroeconomics? It can also be termed as a top-bottom approach, and it is derived from the word macro. Macro means large or wholesome. Hence, it is a branch of economics that depicts a substantial picture. It analyzes itself with the economy at a massive scale, and several issues of the economy are considered. The issues confronted by an economy and the headway that it makes are measured and apprehended as a part and parcel of macroeconomics. Macroeconomics basically studies the association between various countries regarding how the policies of the nation can be framed, how best we can use the resources, etc. What is the GDP of a nation? How much inflation is there in the current year? All those things, what is the employability rate, etc. would be seen across. It circumscribes it is within the scope, I would say, analyzing the success and the failure of the government strategies. In macroeconomics, we normally survey the association of nation's total manufacture and the degree of employment with certain features like cost, prices, wage rates, rate of interest, profits, etc. by concentrating on a single imaginary good and what happens to it. The important concept covered under macroeconomics would include capitalist nation, investment expenditure, revenue, and so on. Let's see what is the basic difference between micro and macroeconomics. Since we have seen the meaning of it, so you can ultimately derive that microeconomics deals with individual units and the effect of individual decisions regarding allocation of the scarce resources. On the other hand, macroeconomics deals with aggregate of large scale unit, that is structural behavior and decision making in an economy as a whole. Greek term micro means small and macro is a Greek term which means large. Basically, micro applies to an operational or internal issues and macro applies to environment or external issues. I have discussed the concept of macro, we will be discussing in the coming slides. Hence, the macro concept would include study about inflation rate, GDP, GNP, employability, etc. Thank you.